Hey everyone, happy Monday. Welcome to a brand new episode of La Vida Baseball Live. I'm Julie Alexandria here in San Diego with Jennifer Mercedes in New Jersey and Ozzie Guillen Jr. in Chicago. Happy Monday, November 16th. History was made last week. We're going to get into it. How are you guys doing?
Yeah, we're holding in there. It's November 16th. It's almost 2021. It's unbelievable.
Ozzie, you feeling good?
I feel great. There's a looming lockdown again, but I would feel better if they showed some baseball is still around, showing some baseball from around the world. But I'm good. You know what? I'm grateful to be here, and it could be a lot worse, so I'm good.
Yeah, that's right. Well, let's talk about it. Let's talk some baseball because history was made last week. And just because the 2020 MLB season is over doesn't mean that baseball is done for 2020. We're going to get into that as far as Latin America is concerned. But let's talk about some glass ceilings being shattered last week as the Miami Marlins and Mr. Derek Jeter, the architect of this incredible move, hired for the first time a female GM. Kim Ng was hired as the Miami Marlins GM. And the sports world has changed forever. Let's talk about it. I mean, talk about the most qualified female for the role, getting a chance. This was not someone, just so you all know at home, this was not somebody who just decided and woke up that she wanted a career in Major League Baseball. This is someone who is in it for the long haul. She has almost 30 years of experience in the major leagues. This woman has devoted her life to baseball. She's worked for 3 different teams, incredible organizations, as well as for the MLB league offices. And finally, someone, Derek Jeter, giving her the chance of a lifetime. And just so incredible in what this means if you are a parent, if you are a young girl, if you are a female, if you're a guy, I mean, if you're anyone and you're seeing this happen, just an incredible momentous moment for baseball. Jennifer, what was your first reaction when you heard the news?
I was just so happy. I was like, finally, this is someone that you mentioned that she was the most qualified female, but I feel like she was the most qualified person. Period for this job. I mean, when you read the articles, a lot of people have said she was overqualified for this position because she's been in baseball for so long and just been so good at it. And I wonder, one of my questions to Derek Jeter, and I know she spoke to the media earlier. I'm looking forward to seeing what she had to say. But one of my questions would be is, did he just always have her in his back pocket as far as when the opportunity presented itself, if that's who he just really wanted to hire, and that would speak a lot to what Derek Jeter's trying to bring to this organization. But the change, that breaking that glass ceiling, and I've seen a lot of people just be really, really happy. You still see some trolls that are like, well, I hope it's not just because she's a woman, whatever. There's a lot of things that we could say to that, but I'm just really, really happy with what's going on with Kim.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Ozzie, obviously you're familiar with Kim. She worked in the White Sox front office as well as the Dodgers and the Yankees. She was one of the architects of that big Derek Jeter deal with Brian Cashman. So there is a long-standing relationship here when it comes to Derek Jeter. But what do you make of this move, and what does it mean for baseball moving forward?
Well, first of all, to all those people that are making those comments about Kim, that means that they know absolutely nothing about the game of baseball. This was an exciting move because it was not only a female, but it was someone that has been around baseball for more than 10 years. Okay, the hires that we've seen in the past are someone that just graduated from Brown or one of the Ivy Leagues, and they bring them in and they think that they're going to come in with their ideas and they're going to change the game. It wasn't the case here. It was 30 years, someone that knows the game, someone that has grown up in the game, that has been part of the transition. And I think Derek Jeter was having her in his short list of, if I have an opportunity and no one has taken her, I will make her a GM. I think that 2 things happened to her. I think that when her chance came to become a general manager, she went up against a couple guys that were really good, Ned Colletti being one of them. They all hired her as their assistant, meaning the guys that she lost to in the position always kept her around because they respected her that much. Then the wave comes in of the new innovative baseball, where you have to be an analytical background, go to an Ivy League school to be a general manager. She kind of gets lost in the shuffle. She decides to take a career into the major league office, where a lot of people thought that, that the commissioner's office would be something that, being the commissioner of baseball would be something that would be in her cards, since the general manager thing wasn't panning off. That's how important she is to the game of baseball. She's someone that has been there from the beginning of the 1990s. And this is not something that just happened overnight. In the 1990s, they She believed in the game of baseball. Ron Schuler believed in her. Roland Heeman and the Chicago White Sox. They brought her in, and this is who you get. You get someone that can run the game of baseball not only in the front office, but what's actually happening on the field. A great hire all around, and now it's the first female, and hard work does pay off. So finally she gets her shot because she was always supposed to be the one.
And I think Lou just said Marlins COO is also a female. They have a lot of female in leadership in the Marlins organization. So to kind of round it out with having her there, I think it's an amazing opportunity for women, not only for women in baseball, but for women in sports. Right? For women in any industry, when you see someone who is at the position that they're at after having worked for so long at it and trying so hard and not giving up, because I think that you could easily just said, you know what, I'm not going to even try anymore because I'm okay over here, like you said, Ozzy, with her position at MLB, but to see her persist, and she persisted, and we've heard that when it comes to women in any industry. So I'm happy that she persisted, because it's not only representation of women, but it's also representation of Asian Americans in baseball. And I was reading another article, and there's a stat about how Asian Americans get looked over more so than any other ethnicity in the United States to be promoted. So, and that's something that's not even ever discussed. We discuss Hispanics, Latinos, we discuss African Americans, but this is the Asian American community as well. So to see them have that representation is so, so important.
Yeah, and let's not discount the power of institutional relationships when it comes to Ozzy. I mean, you just named a perfect example. A kid gets, graduates from an Ivy League university and then gets thrown in. They don't have those long-standing working relationships with other teams, other clubs, other executives, even players at the player level and coach level. This is someone who has strengthened those roots, those bonds with the front office, with the guys on the field. This is someone who can then bring as a calling card to this job, and is one of the biggest pluses in my mind of what she brings to this, of what she brings to the table, is the fact that she has these relationships. And Ozzy, if you could just speak to the power of, sometimes in baseball, it's all about who you know.
Not only who you know, I think the respect that they have for her. If she calls somebody right now, an Ozzy Guillen, for example, and says, I want you to come here and be an infield instructor, Ozzy might even be considering it, but because it's for her and what she brings to the table and what she might be trying to build, they say, okay, absolutely. So you're going to see guys that might be thinking they're out of the game because it's just not feasible for them. It's not fun anymore. The money, it's like, I don't care. I don't need it. Kim changes that. She'll be able to build a winning organization. Derek Jeter, had her in New York. She knows what it takes. Derek doesn't have to tell you about it. She lived it. And I think that's powerful. I think that in a long, long time in Major League Baseball, there was not a unanimous decision, maybe when Derek got into the Hall of Fame, but everyone was so happy for her. Mm-hmm. Everyone was like, finally, like she knows what she's doing, because everyone has that respect for her. And that's something that I think when you're going to hire, especially when you're jumping, when you work in baseball and you're jumping from one team to another, it's a big jump career-wise, because you're always scared of, am I making the right move? Am I going to the place that's going to grow in my career? Am I going to a place that's just going to be a trash, just a burning trash? And that's, your career ends. And a lot of people, it happens. It happened to people. Everyone was jumping on the Houston bandwagon, and then that happens. And now everyone got scared and jump away as far as possible from that. With her having this opportunity, she'll be able to reach out to individuals that might never consider moving from their home team and saying, now, you know what, for that move to Miami, with her leading this, I think that I will. And that's huge, because that happens from front office also to players, because when she comes to talk to them, and I'm talking about American players to Latino players, she'll talk to them on a one-on-one, I know you. And that really helps when you're recruiting, because having a familiar face and having someone you can believe in is a huge way of building a Major League Baseball team.
Yeah, there's so much history being made, and I know that people may get tired about talking about it, how important it is for women to see it. But for all of us, for Julie, I know you can speak to this as well. It's that she's not only doing this for her, right? She hasn't only been doing this for her. I know, I can imagine that in the back of her mind, she knows all of the people that she's pulling up with her as she opens this door for women. And I know that we've had this conversation, and we know, like, you know, supporting other women in the industry is so important, but you can't do that if you don't have the authority to do that, right? So for her to be there, to be able to do the things that she's going to be able to do within that organization, I'm sure that we're going to see many more women involved with this team, whether it's from scouts to any other level of play. I think that's what makes it so much more valuable to this team.
And people make the mistake that think that it's just women because of her gender. It's the way that she thinks, okay? Because she comes from a culture that someone took a chance on her. So she's not going to be a certain way. She's going to look at the whole picture. And that's what baseball was missing. We were going into a box, and you had to be from a certain place. Actually, she graduated from University of Chicago, so maybe not technically Ivy League, but she's got a brain in her, and we've known that. She did this in the 1990s. So the story in baseball, the media was changing it. The teams were going a certain way. She's changing that. She's going to bring people that know the game, but again, giving opportunity. As a father, I love the chance because my daughter, I know, can get into a game of baseball, a game that we consider a family business, because I always said this: if you were going to keep players out, okay, because you're bringing in people to the front office that never played the game of baseball, that means that all the excuses that you had in the past for women, scouting, coaching, anything, you had to throw them out the window. Because if you had someone that had gone to a university just because of their sex, it did not qualify them. So once they went that route of saying you don't need to have a uniform on to play the game of baseball, I said, you know what? That's it. If a woman wants to be a coach, wants to be a manager or front office, they can't hold that against her. And I really believe that, because for a long time, our game was built on you wore the uniform, you paid your dues, and then, you know, you went into the front office. It was harder for women because they didn't play the sport. Once they went the analytical way, then they opened up the doors, and I'm glad that she finally got her shot. She won't be the first, but she'll definitely will not be the last.
And lastly, there's this argument, oh, you know, well, what does she know, or et cetera, et cetera. You just mentioned one thing about playing the sport. How many GMs do we actually have right now?
Where did Theo Epstein play?
Exactly.
Or none of them played. Most of them played maybe high school or front office. Most of the guys that did play Major League Baseball, they weren't very good at it. You know, it's very rare that you have a guy that was a Derek Jeter of the world and is running a baseball team, you know, an A-Rod, and, you know, he becomes a general manager or a president of Major League Baseball team. So again, when that step was taken forward, I think that opened up the door to a lot of individuals that didn't have to wear a uniform. And I'm glad that she's finally the first one. But like I said, she won't be the last. And again, if it works out, we've been making the wrong hires for a long, long time. You know, we've been doing that over and over again. So maybe some teams wake up and say, you know what? Why not? Why not look at something different and bring a different perspective to the game?
Hey, first female vice president, first female general manager. We're going to have a lot of firsts, I believe, moving forward.
Oh, we can only hope. Well, congratulations to Kim Ng and the entire Marlins organization from all of us here at LVB Baseball. And switching gears, it is very rare that the minor leagues make headlines, but unfortunately for some, their fate and their future hangs in the balance as far as the fact that they do not have a union representation when it comes to negotiations, and MLB is looking to cut certain teams as a cost-saving effort. So at this point, where do we stand, and what does this mean for certain teams and their players, Jen? Jen, we can't hear you. I'm not sure if you might be on mute. There we go.
Yeah, I mean, okay, I'm sorry. What I was saying is that it sucks, and there's no other way to put it. It sucks, and it sucks to see the teams voicing their frustration on social media when, you know, a lot of these teams maybe thought that there was hope, that they would have a chance, that they would stick it out. And so seeing somebody like here in Jersey, the Trenton Thunder, that was such a staple for the state of New Jersey and for that city. There's a lot of economical impact on these cities. And I think that that's where it's going to hurt the most, but also the player development. I mean, what happens to these, you know, lower tier players that maybe would have a chance if they just get a chance, right? They can continue to work. So I think that there's a lot to be lost with all of these things that are happening. But COVID and just everything else was the perfect storm for this to happen.
Yeah. Ozzy, are some of these minor league teams just a victim of COVID-19 and just the sort of changing trend of baseball?
I'm going to be very controversial. There was way too many minor league baseball teams. It was watered down. Teams were realizing that. They had 4 Class A's, 2 triple. Again, they're going to go back to having the fundamentals. What cannot happen is teams to take advantage of this and say, okay, we're only going to have 2 minor league teams. Whatever they decide to do, they cannot regress from the 1970s. If it's four teams per minor league, okay. If teams want to have more, I think Major League Baseball should incentivize. Okay, if you do have 2 rookie balls, maybe you get an extra pick in the draft. That way teams say, we'll get something out of it. I also think it's a huge opportunity, to be honest with you. You don't have to be affiliated to minor league baseball to have a team there. I think it's a great opportunity for teams to create a very, very strong independent league because the markets have been set. Okay, when I talk about the markets that have been set is the stadiums are there and the fans base is going to be thirsty for some baseball. Not only that, the players are going to be available because if you cut the minor leagues, a bunch of players are going to get released. You release a bunch of players, what you need in the league is to have players play so you can literally create another independent ball league that can definitely benefit and go back to what baseball used to be. Minor league baseball, we have to remember, bought all these independent teams and kind of made them part of this association. And for a long time, it was a detriment because now players couldn't negotiate their contract. You were on the minor league contract, and it was what it was. Now, going back to independent ball, it means that teams can sell these contracts to Major League Baseball teams. So if a league does come out of this, I think that you find a way to negotiate with Major League Baseball where it becomes kind of like the Mexican league where you can exchange a contract of a player for some money. But I definitely see it as an opportunity because if the location or the area that the games are played really wants to keep the game, they should try to affiliate themselves to one of the independent ball leagues.
Okay, I mean, here's one thing that I just that came up that you said that it just struck me is that don't you think that if that's the way they go forth, it's a little bit cost prohibitive because how many guys can actually afford to play rookie ball or afford to play minor league ball full time? A lot of these guys have to take on other jobs. More than half of them are Uber drivers in the times that they're not playing because they just don't pay them enough. Are you saying that they should cut it down and then perhaps pay them more so that they can afford to play full time and be players?
Double-edged sword. So if you do cut the teams, okay, saying you're not going to have 3 single A teams, okay, that's fine. Then pay more to the players that are in your AA, AAA system. I do believe that Major League Baseball needs to go to a structure where even though you're signed with your signing bonus, that there needs to be a minimum wage amount of money that you make and say, okay, minimum wage in the United States is so-and-so, and we're going to pay for you in the long run. The teams that do it right, I believe, are the teams that take care of the players throughout the whole season and letting them
play. Who does that? What teams do it? I don't know of any teams that does that.
But I'm saying that they should. They need to do it more because you need to focus. And it's the same issue when a player goes to Latin America when, you let the kid go back, back wherever he's from and he doesn't have a structure or a plan. I believe that teams need to start investing more. If you are going to cut the league, means, okay, you're going to cut the teams, but that means reinvest that money into the players and to developing better players. And to be honest, again, in the opportunity of these indie leagues, be able to set it up. You can set up a business where you can pay a player throughout a whole season and be able to have him at minimum wage and get that money back if you set it up the right way. Because technically, he is working for you the whole time, playing wise. Again, sharing a player, lending a player, and saying, okay, I'm going to owe your rights, but I'll lend you to Latin America to play in winter ball. There's ways around it. Again, I think that teams really need to look at this because what they cannot do is eliminate half of minor league baseball and still pay the players nothing, just so the owners can get an extra, $4 million a year. What does that cost you? A backup second baseman?
Pay for housing, and pay a living wage.
I don't know why they don't have dorms. I really don't know why minor league baseball, and that's a whole different scenario. Because again, I know that when we spend all this money, okay, and we're spending all this money on analytics, okay, and analytics is supposed to help you find the diamonds in the rough. And when I say this is, if me and my daughter went and Adela's 2 years old and said, pick out the best player out there, and Alex Rodriguez was taking ground balls, Adela would say, Daddy, him. Any scout can pick Alex Rodriguez. His teachers knew that he was going to be amazing. In second grade, that's you're not a phenom because of that. But when you find a guy like Sammy Sosa, Luis Castillo, guys that you like, Pedro Martinez, guys that you see, is 5'10", 110 pounds, and then you invest that money in that player, that means you develop that player into a big leaguer. most Major League Baseball players are players like that. Very rarely do we see a guy like Juan Soto walk off who looks like a baseball god and be able to play baseball. He's one of a kind. So you need to invest money in developing a player. So we're investing all this money on computers and how are we going to find the next guy? But once we find that, we're not doing enough to keep him. So I really feel like there's a gap of wouldn't you want to grab a guy and then keep him for as long as possible, develop him before you find the next guy to develop? I think that they try to fail fast instead of saying, let's take time, invest our money the right way. And I think that's the next revolution of baseball because, signing a kid at 16 and letting him go at 17 and a half because you don't want to pay him $1,000 a month, it's just bad business. It makes no sense. It's like in the real world, rehiring someone after you train them after 6 months. It makes no sense. So I really hope that Major League Baseball figures out.
And if you think, Lou mentions that American Association and Frontier League are partners of MLB, but if you think that what minor league players are making is just, ridiculous, what they make in indie ball is even less. Okay, there's just no comparing what the amount of money that they make. So there needs to be some sort of investment in both. I would like to see, raise in both of those leagues, but independent ball, it's independent, right? So they struggle to increase wages. And I think now with lack of fans, like what's going to happen next year, there's so many questions to what is going to happen. What is going to be the economic impact across sports leagues, period, moving forward. And it's just a question. It sucks that it's happening, but Ozzy, I do agree that this could be a positive. So we'll see what happens.
Absolutely. Take care of those guys. They work hard for the league. They work hard for your entertainment. Okay, moving over to winter ball discussions. Ozzy, you mentioned winter ball. It's something we love to cover here at La Vida Baseball. And something that a lot of people I don't think realize here in North America is that there's so many juicy storylines in winter ball. You have guys coming in with all sorts of super objectives. You have guys from the major leagues who are trying to rehabilitate, trying to bulk up, trying to change their career path, trying to get better, trying to rehabilitate, say, their career. And then you've got guys that future stars whose names you've never heard of, but who you will one day see on a major league field. So of the winter ball 2020 season that is about to get underway, what storylines, what players are you guys looking towards? Because there's a lot of big names getting ready to sit up down there. For
me, is the amount of guys that they're not signed. A lot of guys, it was a 60-game season. They didn't have enough time to showcase. So there's a lot of guys in the middle of the road. We got Gary's picture right there. Guys that didn't get enough at-bats, had horrible years. And remember, baseball players have been trained to have 300 to 400 plus at-bats a year. Guys are going to have to go get at-bats. The COVID situation, obviously here at home in the United States, you're not doing anything. Not everyone has a cage inside their house. Why not go home and play in winter ball in really nice weather and be able to, find your swing again? I think that's the biggest storyline. I also think the other biggest storyline is there's a lot of young prospects, okay, that know now that if next year is the same situation as COVID was this year, that even though they're in single A or double A, they can make the jump, okay? They can make the jump to Major League Baseball. So I think that the awesome thing about winter ball is that you have guys like Fernando Rodney trying to get back on a Major League Baseball team. Marcus Stroman, not Marcus Stroman, I forgot his name, ex-reliever for the Cubs. He'll be definitely pitching there. I saw Melky Cabrera's on a roster. But you got all the older guys, but then you got all the younger guys that are saying, I am going to play. And this happens from the DR all the way to Nicaragua, Colombia. Every country has, obviously, most of the countries have a league. And it's just exciting. It's good baseball. But this year especially, they're going to try to find diamonds in the rough, guys that they can sign. And it's going to be used as a big evaluator on who they're going to bring back for 2021 because 60 games was not enough.
And I think if you are a huge baseball fan, and you're going to look forward to seeing a lot of the prospects, those top prospects, somebody like David Garcia, who we had a brief chance to see what he can do in the big leagues. You have Wander Franco, who's going to be playing out there, and then a guy like Gary Sanchez, who has a lot to prove with the Yankees, and they're trying to fix him, and there's no better place to fix him than in DR, where you play the most competitive level of baseball in all of the Caribbean and all of Latin America, I believe. So those are going to be stories that you're going to want to see. You're also going to want to see like that young interaction with the veteran players. That's going to be super important for a lot of these young guys who may not have had a chance to do that had COVID not happened, right? Because I don't think we would have seen so many veteran players. I think we may even see a big sexy.
Oh, he will pitch. I just saw him throwing. He will pitch. He will pitch in Dominican. So the number one player this year in Major League Baseball, excitement-wise, was a young man by the name of Fernando Tatis Jr., okay? To everybody, it was like, I already saw this movie, so I wasn't impressed. People were like, how are you not excited about Tatis Jr.? I was like, you came to me 2 years too late. Tatis Jr., I think his development to becoming the player that he is today was because he played in Dominican Republic at such a young age. Mm-hmm. If you play in the DR or in Venezuela in one of like what they call the rival games, you're never going to get scared in Major League Baseball because I don't think that there's that much pressure as there is because the games are so short and truncated. He actually took his team to the championship. He had an amazing time. Obviously, you can Google his bat flipping that was going on there. But I think it helped him mature as a player. That's the type of excitement that when I look at Major League Baseball and I see flares of it and I see people say, change the game. I'm like, oh, really? Well, we've been doing this in Latin America for a long, long time. You know, sliding head first, you know, everyone's dancing, everyone's jumping. So it's a different atmosphere, but the intensity as well. And I really, really believe that when a player, one of my biggest tells, I always ask is he a prospect? Great. Has he played winter ball? No, he needs to play winter ball. Why? Because I really think it's the first time ever where American players get out of their comfort zone, go in a different country, deal with different pressures, and now you're playing in front of real fans. No, you know, when you're in AA, you know, in Birmingham, Alabama, there's only, you know, you can only get 7,000 people on a good day because the stadiums are smaller. You're in the DR and you're playing, you know, on a Friday night, you're going to get a couple thousand people that are screaming at you. So I think from a pressure standpoint, it's a great way to mature and take it to the next step. And we've seen it with the last couple big stars have been played in winter ball.
But it's a bummer that we can't see it.
Well, that's a different story.
Here, as a North American audience, we can't see it, Ozzy. It's impossible to find. It's unfortunate that MLB doesn't air these games because they would be so much fun to watch. And
that would be the progressive and smart thing to do.
I'm making bets on the Daesung Giants, the Lions, in North Korea, in South Korea, and Japan.
Which is fine. But I would like to see some
But I'm saying, though,
Dominican
think about this. If you're that excited about seeing baseball, and let's be honest, there was only like one guy, maybe two per team that you knew who their names were. Okay. Sure. The other players, you had no idea who they were. You were like, hey, once you start watching, of course, you start getting acclimated. If you turn on a winter ball team, okay, you will know 90% of the players on the rosters. Yep. Okay. You will know 90% either because they're a prospect or there's someone that played in the big league level. So you literally watch the game and you go, oh, okay, this is Baltimore versus Tampa. You know, you literally recognize the players that are playing. So the opportunity, again, if you're broadcasting a game from all the way in Korea, okay, Korea's further away from Connecticut than the DR is, okay? It is what it is. The other part is I think that they're missing a huge opportunity because every Latino, okay, if you're a baseball fan or not, you root for somebody in your country. So for all the Hispanics that are here that are from those countries that have it, you will watch games because there's a team that you're associated with that you were born into, even if you haven't watched them in the last couple of years.
Not even the Latino fans. I mean, you have an entire baseball fan base that wants to watch the games. I mean, if you follow Cespedes Barbecue, right? Like he's been talking about this. He went last year to the DR, and there's an app, right? There's a link there's a subscription that you can pay. But you know what, MLB, if you really want to make that MLB TV app worth our while, include the games there, start streaming them there. Right? I think a lot of people would buy it. I mean, we would probably be sharing passwords, but that's besides the point. But we want to see the games, you know?
It's true. You're online at the DMV and you're like, okay, I could check my Instagram, I could check my Facebook, or I could watch 3 innings of a Winter League game in December. Yeah, I would rather do that, right? Like, that's what I don't like. This is such an opportunity. Not only that, but, you know, owners are talking about, and the league is talking about lost sponsorship dollars, right? What an incredible opportunity this would have been for this year for Anheuser-Busch, for Molson Coors, for, you know, some of these.
Ain't nobody getting Presidente out of there. Nope.
Well, since it was just acquired by Anheuser-Busch, it falls under that umbrella.
You're right.
But I think, at this point, it's like, these telecom companies, it's like, what an incredible opportunity to sponsor the streams, the live streams of these games. It's just something to think about. Just kind of put it out there because we see it. We see the vision.
People don't realize this, okay? Major League Baseball needs to try to stop stealing fans that are never going to come to baseball. You're not going to go and steal a guy from the NBA, a kid that's been watching the NBA since he was 5 years old, and now all of a sudden he's going to come to watch Major League Baseball. You need to keep the fans that you have, okay? So you do everything possible to like change rules and whatnot, when in reality what you should be doing is doubling down on Suspended's barbecue, okay? Doubling down on someone like Ozzie Jr., who eats and breathes and pays for the Athletic and is following, the moves and the hot stove and watches La Vida Baseball. We're here. We're a market. Like, we want more baseball. We're tired of watching The Natural on MLB Network. I know that top plays of the leagues are amazing, but I don't want to see Dan Plesac and Harold Reynolds talk about what was the best play in April. I really don't. So I really feel as a consumer and as a customer that they're really missing out on us who we want baseball because, again, we follow this on the internet, okay, by watching the score saying, oh, Eloy Jimenez hit this today. Now we have the opportunity because of technology to be able to follow these individuals. There's a lot of fans that follow players. They're not even on their team. Why? Because I can follow Fernando Tatis Jr. on Instagram and know exactly everything that he's doing. So I don't have to be a San Diego Padres fan. That's what they don't get. They can become a fan of the league because these guys are sharing on social media. Everything is in front of us. And I do not get why it's so hard because it's so easy to build a fan now from someone that's here sitting in Illinois in the suburbs, anywhere in the world. And Major League Baseball is missing that shot. And they have everything. They have the TV, they have the app, they have the Instagram, but yet they don't have the time to just say, you know what? I think this would make sense. And then they try to
showing the highlights.
Even highlights, even anything.
Exactly, even highlights. If you're at least show the highlights. Right, send a camera crew down. So if you want to get the best kind of quality that you want, but start at least on MLB Network, on SportsCenter, on Instagram, Twitter, all across social media. Start showing the highlights and see how that rates, and then. By this time, next year you'll have an idea and you'll be able to actually sell this to a lot of people if that's what you want, right? I mean, I think you can sell it now, but they need to start small. Start showing the highlights. My
favorite part is then they try to bring up the Caribbean Series and they're like, hey, everybody, the Caribbean Series. Everyone's like, who's playing? Because they haven't been following it. It's not the same. If you've been following the league, you're like, oh, these are the teams that are going. And there's interest. Again, it makes too much sense. But
you have Luis Sojo managing the Tigres del Licey. I mean, Yankees, icon.
No, but he is managing. Talk about stories. He is managing the team, by the way.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
If you manage the Tigres del Licey, you are managing the New York Yankees of the Caribbean baseball.
Exactly.
I hope he does well, but there's going to be so much pressure on him. But I'm hoping good for him. But again, that's a great story. People don't know this. The Tigres del Licey are the New York Yankees of Latin America. Like, if you get that job, it's like, wow, that's an amazing thing, especially for someone who's not Dominican, managing in Dominican Republic, the team that's like the Yankees. So it's going to be an amazing story. Again, that would be something that people here in this market would gravitate to and want to watch.
And there we have that Junior Noboa, who is part of the Arizona Diamondbacks organization, somebody who's been involved in Major League Baseball for a very, very long time, managing the Tigres del Licey. And he was speaking about all of the players that you're going to be able to see, the prospects, top prospects. Mm-hmm. Be able to see with this team, and literally across the DR, all of the teams have some sort of group of really potential star players that I know baseball fans want to watch. So if MLB does not get on board, go to our Twitter and Instagram. We'll be sharing where you can watch.
Exactly. We'll be there. We'll be covering it all. And to your point, now in the age of social media, when players can be so outspoken and people can be fans of the players themselves, not just the team. I mean, guaranteed the people that were responding to Marcus Stroman's, acerbic tweets against Tony La Russa last week, I would say 90% of them are probably not White Sox fans or Mets fans or even, Toronto Blue Jays fans, the teams that he played on. I guarantee you that the people who are commenting on Trevor Bauer's Twitter rants, they're probably not Cincinnati Reds fans, but they're fans of him. They like to cue it. Maybe they're not even fans of him. Maybe they just want to check in, see what he's up to, see what Fernando Tatis Jr. is up to during the offseason, see what Johnny Cueto is cooking during the offseason, which we will be bringing you as well. Oh my goodness. But yes, definitely keep it here for lots and lots of great content as it pertains to baseball in the offseason, the winter ball leagues, the Caribbean League, and everything that encompasses, because that's what we are about here at LVB Baseball. So thank you so much, everybody, for watching. Thank you, Jen. Thank you, Ozzy. Always a pleasure. And keep it tuned right here on LVB Baseball for much more coming your way. Take care, everyone.